The Christmas tree in Victoria's mansion glittered like a miniature skyline, every ornament catching the soft glow of the string lights, reflecting wealth in a way that practically screamed, "Look at me, look at me." I walked into the living room, silently noting the sheer opulence of it all. The velvet rugs, the gilded decorations, and the kind of champagne glasses that cost more than my old apartment had. The Peterson family had gathered, all smiles, all posture, all that performative warmth families wield like armor. But beneath it was the usual undercurrent of judgment. Victoria, my eldest sister, approached with a smirk so perfectly trained it could have been sculpted. "And here's your gift, Emma," she said, sliding a small envelope across the marble tabletop. Her tone was sweet enough, but the glint in her eye carried a subtle message. "We know exactly where you stand. I didn't need to open it. I'd seen them at the country club last week," laughing quietly as they wrapped it, conspiring in that unspoken language of entitlement that only family members seem fluent in. Still, for form's sake, I opened the envelope. Inside lay exactly what I had expected: a yearly bus pass, neatly folded with a printed schedule of routes that conveniently passed by discount stores. "Since you still can't afford a car," Marcus chimed in, jingling the keys to his Ferrari like he was offering a charity donation. He was 35, proud of his title, proud of his toys, and absolutely convinced he knew the scope of my life. I smiled faintly, tucking the bus pass into my handbag, a custom Hermes piece that could have purchased half a Ferrari. Not that. They'd recognize subtle luxury if it hit them in the face. "Thank you," I said quietly. "This is thoughtful. I appreciate it." Mom, ever the social referee, leaned over her diamond bracelet, her voice dripping with faux concern. "We worry about you, Emma. All your siblings are so successful." She gestured to Victoria's interior design firm, Marcus Investment Empire, and Charlotte's luxury car dealership. And of course, the youngest sister, Charlotte, couldn't resist showing off the newest Mercedes she had somehow earned. Funny how none of them realized that Victoria's firm rented office space from one of my buildings. Marcus' company managed funds that flowed through my aviation empire, and Charlotte's dealership relied on financing from my banking subsidiary. Every boast they made, every illusion of success was quietly scaffolded on my empire, and they had no idea. Charlotte went on, phone out, showing off the interior of a private jet. "We're flying to Aspen tonight on the most incredible jet. Look at this interior, it's like nothing you'll ever see, Emma." I kept my face neutral, checking my phone casually. "What time is the flight?" 8 o'clock, Marcus answered proudly. "We should arrive early to enjoy the lounge." "Not that you'd understand, of course, with your bus pass." I felt my lips twitch. My pilot had already sent me the final manifest. I knew exactly when they would arrive, and I knew exactly what they didn't. "Thanks for the bus pass," I said softly, standing. "Have a safe flight." I texted my pilot, "Let's make this interesting. Wait at the main terminal. I'll be in the private hangar." Watch their faces. The plan was simple, elegant, and deliciously ironic. My family had spent years measuring me against appearances, underestimating my intelligence, my reach, my wealth. In a few hours, they'd discover that every assumption they had made about my career and financial situation was spectacularly wrong. 2 hours later, I lounged in my private hangar, security feeds running across the monitors, showing every step of their arrival. Victoria paced, heels clicking, muttering at staff. Marcus flailed, trying to impress the operations team with investment tips they didn't need. Charlotte documented everything through the windows, posing like royalty among aircraft she thought were unattainable. "Do you know who we are?" Victoria demanded through the live audio feed. "Of course, ma'am," my assistant Sarah replied smoothly. "The owner is aware of your status. We'll escort you to the private hangar shortly." Their smoke and mirrors procession across the tarmac was a parade of ignorance. They assumed the special treatment was their social standing. They didn't know it was me orchestrating every step, the one controlling their access, their exposure, and ultimately, their humiliation. Marcus straightened his tie. "I don't recall hearing about EP Holdings before," Charlotte said, squinting at the subtle branding on the hanger. Wasn't that something Emma mentioned once about her? Boring job? Victoria scoffed. Emma can barely afford bus fare. The hangar doors opened. My flagship jet, a custom Gulfstream G650R, gleamed, its tail bearing the Aviation Dynamics logo, and, subtly, my initials carved into the interior woodwork. Sarah's voice echoed, "Welcome to Aviation Dynamics. The owner will see you in the private lounge." Their jaws dropped. Faces frozen. Expressions a mixture of awe and confusion. Subtle luxury, true control, true ownership, all delivered silently, effortlessly, and directly under their noses. I pressed the button to open the hidden door connecting my private office to the lounge. Actually, I said, stepping into view, Emma can see this perfectly well from here. Shock. Speechlessness. Every carefully constructed assumption shattered in one moment. The smirk Victoria had used so liberally, the condescension of Marcus, the performative sophistication of Charlotte gone, replaced with raw, unfiltered comprehension. I was not their struggling sister. I was the one they'd underestimated. The one whose power had quietly eclipsed them all. They had given me a bus pass for Christmas. I had given them a lesson in perspective. The moment their shock settled into uneasy curiosity, the true game began. Victoria's carefully polished veneer cracked first. She tried to speak, to reclaim some shred of authority, but words stumbled from her lips. Emma, this can't be real. I smiled faintly, letting the silence stretch. Let them stew. Every second of their confusion was a small victory, a counterpoint to the years of condescension and underestimation. You've been exaggerating your career, your financial situation, Victoria continued, her voice tighter now. This is impossible. Not impossible, I said calmly. Merely hidden. And perhaps underestimated by those who assumed appearances defined capability. Marcus, always quick to assert himself in matters of finance, stepped forward. This is a joke, right? Some corporate prank? Emma, you can't possibly own... Yes, Marcus. I own every aircraft you've boasted about, the building your office leases from, and the banking entity behind Charlotte's financing magic. Every asset you assumed was independent, all under EP Holdings, my company, my control, my discretion. Charlotte froze mid-photo, phone dangling like a lifeline. But why didn't you say anything? Because, dear sister, the lessons you need are better experienced than told, I said, letting the words settle. Let's start with reality checks. I gestured to the folders laid out on the lounge table. Sarah distributed them with precision. Each folder marked with their names. Your financial portfolios, all real numbers, audited, verified. No illusions, no borrowed prestige, no social currency masking actual performance. Victoria's hands trembled as she opened hers. This can't be correct. My design firm. 3 years at a loss? Yes, and those extravagant. Client invoices you presented? Mostly loans you issued to yourself, inflating revenue to maintain appearances. Marcus flipped his folder in disbelief. Our investments. We've been operating under your control? Precisely, I said. Your shell companies, creative accounting, leverage statements, all monitored, all transparent to my oversight. You thought independence was possible. But the foundation of your wealth has quietly been under my management for years. Charlotte's face paled. And the dealership, the sales, all of it? Reassessed, I replied. Your credit checks, financing approval systems, client verifications, each now aligned with actual risk, not vanity projections. No more mirage sales. Silence fell across the room. My mother, ever the social tactician, interjected. Weakly, Emma, can we resolve this quietly? Perhaps we can. Resolve? Let's be precise, Mother. This isn't about family diplomacy. It's about responsibility. Every misrepresentation, every financial illusion you've perpetuated, has consequences. Victoria's voice quivered. What are you going to do? I allowed a pause, letting the tension build. I'm giving you options, not ultimatums, Marcus snorted. Options? Like what? Accepting you as the invisible godmother of our empire? Option 1, I said, tapping each folder decisively. You accept reality. You work in positions proportional to actual performance within my companies. Entry level, ground up, learn. The operations you've been circumventing through connections and borrowed prestige. Victoria gasped. Entry level? After decades. In my own firm? Learning accountability, I corrected. Option 2. Your financial misrepresentations, inflated client contracts, creative accounting, and misrepresented assets are exposed publicly. Consequences follow: audits, potential penalties, lost contracts, no family immunity, no shielding through appearances. Charlotte's hands shook as she clutched her folder. You're serious? Everything, our image? Exactly. Image versus reality. Choose wisely. Marcus' protest grew louder. We're family! You can't. Family, I interrupted. Voice firm, measured. Doesn't excuse deception, nor does it forgive exploitation. You've excluded me, belittled me, assumed incompetence. This is accountability, not revenge. And yes, it's exactly at the right moment after years of watching your illusions. My mother tried one last maneuver. We can compromise. Surely you can let them retain privileges, the jet, the memberships, the social connections? I let the statement hang before answering. Privileges tied to achievement, verification, and reality, mother. Not inherited assumptions or misrepresented. Wealth, the private jet memberships? Revoked, effective immediately. I watched through the security feeds as panic began to ripple through them. Victoria clutched her folder, lips pressed tight. Marcus' face drained, realizing the reality of audits and exposures. Charlotte's phone slipped from her fingers as she comprehended the realignment of her financing and dealership operations. Sarah whispered. They're ready to negotiate, but... Do you want me to maintain the delay? Make them wait a bit longer? I smirked. Let's enjoy the discomfort. Another 10 minutes of suspense. Through their reactions, I saw the shift. The condescension evaporated, replaced by uncertainty. The smugness that had dictated every Christmas gathering, every family event, every subtle insult, gone. Victoria's voice finally broke. Emma, if we accept the positions, will we still retain any semblance of our lifestyle? Not the illusions you've clung to, I said. The lifestyle you can sustain legitimately, yes. No more charades, no more inflated claims. No more assuming your wealth is invulnerable because of social perception. Build it, earn it, prove it. Marcus sank into a chair, realizing the facade he'd maintained was dissolving. And if we refuse? Then the consequences follow. I said, eyes locked on him. Public exposure, audits, contract cancellations, reputational loss. Realities you've chosen to ignore for far too long. Charlotte finally spoke, voice small, resigned. Entry level then. I'll take it. Victoria and Marcus exchanged a glance, their pride clashing with survival instinct. Moments of tension, of reflection, of clarity, finally yielding to reason. Good, I said, allowing a small smile. The positions have been assigned. Entry level, grounded, realistic, responsibilities proportionate to reality, not perception. Consider it your first lesson. Their disbelief was tangible. Marcus, the once confident investment prodigy, suddenly humbled, muttered, "This is going to change everything." Yes, I replied, it will, and it's about time. I sent a message to my operations team. Finalize onboarding. Confirm training schedules. The final stage was subtle but necessary. The long-term management of consequences. Victoria would learn humility, Marcus accountability, Charlotte operational competence. And my mother? She would have to confront the reality that social maneuvering and charm could no longer shield the family from truth. The lesson unfolded in real time over the next few days. Victoria arrived at the office early, quietly performing tasks she had once delegated without thought. Marcus faced regulatory scrutiny he had blissfully ignored, learning the cost of oversight and responsibility firsthand. Charlotte, stripped of financial shortcuts, worked diligently to understand operations rather than glamour. I allowed them to navigate their new roles with guidance but no interference. The balance of power had shifted. The illusion of superiority was gone, replaced with an understanding that wealth, privilege, and reputation are meaningless without integrity and competence. And through it all, I observed every misstep, every realization, every humbled glance. It was better than any Christmas gift they'd ever given me. The bus pass, framed in my private hangar, served as a quiet reminder. Appearances deceive. Timing matters. And sometimes, the best revenge is the one that doesn't shout. It simply allows reality to speak for itself. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. I reminded the imagined audience, imagining the thrill they'd feel watching lessons unfold in real time. Comment below what you'd do if your family assumed they could outsmart you. And if you're enjoying this story, give it a like. It really helps the channel. The days after the Christmas airport reveal were a quiet storm. The Petersons had been humbled, yes, but the lessons were far from complete. I watched from my office as the first ripples of consequence spread through their lives like carefully placed dominoes. Victoria was first. She arrived at the office at 7 a.m. Not in designer heels or a perfectly pressed gown, but in a sensible suit. She had traded luxury for practicality, the transition almost painful to observe. "I'll take the position," she admitted quietly. No theatrics, no excuses. She walked into our aviation interior design department as an assistant, tasked with organizing fabric swatches, cataloging materials,